Howdy folks, and welcome to the latest patch for War Thunder, which has just gone live, patch 1.53, and they're calling it Firestorm. This is a big ass patch. It's over 9 gigabytes worth of download. What the hell have they jam-packed into the latest version of War Thunder that necessitates a download of such gargantuan proportions? Well, quite a bit actually. You're getting 28 new vehicles, you're getting a complete overhaul of the game engine, you're getting physics-based rendering, you're getting new water rendering, you're getting destructible environments, which are coming on 2 brand new maps, and have been added to 1 existing map. There's the usual range of changes to vehicle models, damage models, flight models, and battle ratings, and there's also been a significant update to the visibility mechanics, which is a particular welcome addition to the game, and something that I know a lot of people, myself included, have been waiting for a very, very long time. So, make yourself comfortable and let's take a look at War Thunder patch 1.53 Firestorm. Those of you like me who haven't been playing War Thunder lately for various reasons, is this the patch that's got what it takes to bring you back? Let's take a look. So, 28 new vehicles, both aircraft and ground vehicles. That is a lot of new hardware. However, not all of it is available for research. A lot of the new vehicles are premium vehicles which you have to buy for Golden Eagles. And some of them aren't even available yet. They're simply going to be included later on after the patch has gone live as reward vehicles for special events. But among the vehicles that are available, we have the first 4 British tanks to be included in a War Thunder, and they are the Cruiser A13, the M10 Achilles tank destroyer, the Sherman Firefly, and the Churchill Black Prince. And the love for the British doesn't stop there. We're also getting the Hawker Hunter, an exceptionally good jet fighter aircraft armed with 4 30mm Aden cannons. But before we take a closer look at these additions to the British lineup, there's one addition to the Soviet lineup that is definitely worthy of further attention. It's the PT-76. This is the first amphibious vehicle to be introduced into War Thunder. That's right, an amphibious armoured personnel carrier, or at least that's what it says. In order to save you lot the embarrassment of finding out the hard way, I had to go with this thing in a custom battle that I set up on a map that was guaranteed to have a lot of water on it rather than subject myself to the lottery of hitting that random battle button. And it turns out that the first amphibious vehicle to be introduced into War Thunder is about as amphibious as a brick. I was curious to see if I could make it to that island because it's actually technically inside the map area, but no, sorry. We're going to have to wait for War Thunder's naval forces before we can have any amphibious adventures. And even then it's only going to be running your ships aground. This may be based on an amphibious armoured personnel carrier, but it is not in any way, shape or form an amphibious vehicle here in War Thunder, which is a bit of a shame, because that could have been amusing. So, while we're showing off just exactly how un-amphibious the PT-76 actually is, despite what you may have read on War Thunder's Facebook page or website, I thought it was a good opportunity to show off the changes that have been made to the visibility mechanics. What Gaijin have done with the completely overhauled Daegor version 4.0 game engine, which is part and parcel of War Thunder patch 1.53, is that they have finally gotten around to addressing the issue whereby people would deliberately be playing the game on ultra low quality graphics settings, not because their computer couldn't handle it, but because they wanted to take advantage of an exploit. On ultra low quality, the game pretty much didn't bother rendering things like trees and bushes. And in a game like War Thunder Ground Forces, where one-shot kills are not unusual and the person getting the first shot off usually wins the fight, you can imagine exactly how much of an advantage this gave them over anybody who was playing the game on low, medium, high or movie graphic settings. Well, exploits like that are a thing of the past. And while the PT-76 is once again proving that it is nowhere near as amphibious as you may have been led to believe, we're going to show you the difference. What follows here is pretty much exactly the same replay that you've just seen. Custom battle set up with bots using the PT-76. On the right hand side of the screen you can see War Thunder running on high detail settings, and on the left hand side of the screen ultra low quality. There's really not that much of a difference between the two settings anymore. The maximum drawing distance for trees now has a far lesser effect in patch 1.53. Both bushes and trees are now drawn when seen from the ground vehicle at exactly the same distances in all environments and in all graphic settings up to and including high settings. I actually usually play War Thunder on movie quality settings, but not many people can afford to do that. I really do think that this is the kind of change, long overdue, that is going to bring more people back to War Thunder than anything else in patch 1.53. And that's not all. You may have noticed that the water is looking a little bit more spiffy than you might be used to. That's because in patch 1.53, Gaijin have introduced nVidia's WaveWorks technology, which gives much more realistic water and foam effects for rivers, seas, lakes and oceans. And patch 1.53 also brings destructible environments. Here you can see a couple of SU-152s doing what they do best, high explosive destruction. And check how this building collapses after it's been hit by high explosive shells. Don't get too excited about this particular feature, however. It's only currently available on 3 maps. 2 of the new maps that were introduced in patch 1.53 and 1 existing map, the Berlin map. Nevertheless, it did sound like a fun and interesting new feature, so I thought I'll load up an SU-152, jump onto the Berlin map and see what kind of damage I can cause. High explosive loaded. Let's get a better angle. Boom! Headshot. And there she goes. And it's not finished, it's still collapsing. So, yeah, very satisfying. I'm not entirely sure what sort of practical value this is going to have, however, but it is fun. Possibly a little too much fun. Let's see what damage I can do to this one. There we go. And I do appear to have actually hit a bot on my own team with a fragment. So you better watch out for that, but check out this building. It hasn't finished collapsing yet. There it goes. That is epic. This is very, very, very good stuff. But I remain unconvinced as to actually how much practical value it's going to have, other than as a temporary distraction for people who have far too much high explosive ammunition and far too much time on their hands. When there are tanks that need blowing up, why would anybody waste their time shooting at buildings? Unless Gaijin capitalise on it by introducing features onto maps that can only be cleared by the application of some timely high explosive firepower, opening up choke points, for example, that otherwise wouldn't allow access to your vehicles. As it stands, while it is a nice feature and it certainly does look good, I just really don't see the practical value of it. I thought I might be able to bring a building down and block a road with rubble, but this is where I ran into the first big issue with this whole destructible environment thing. Not all of the environments are destructible. That high explosive shell did absolutely nothing to that building. Only certain of the buildings can actually be demolished, and that's a bit disappointing. No matter how much high explosive I pumped into it, I couldn't blow up the Reichstag building. And I also couldn't blow up the Brandenburg Gate. Which was a bit of a bummer, because I was really looking forward to blowing up massive German cultural landmarks and then making sculptures of giant dicks out of the rubble. But it was not to be. One word of warning, however, before you all rush to try it out for yourself and then come back and spam the comments with Jingles, none of the buildings are blowing up when I shoot at them. You have to be firing high explosive ammunition. Armour piercing will have no effect whatsoever. That's what high explosive was for. I can, however, confirm that all forms of high explosive ordnance will have the same effect on destructible buildings, and that includes the artillery barrage consumable. There was one of the ranging shots. There's another ranging shot. They seem to fire an awful lot of ranging shots in War Thunder these days with these artillery barrages, don't they? There was a direct hit. Again, another ranging shot. I think there's going to be a 4th ranging shot, and then the barrage itself is going to... 4th ranging shot. Took the top off that wall. That's starting to collapse. Rubble, trees going down everywhere, and there's the main barrage. Oh yeah, that was nice. But the destruction isn't finished. That wall there is looking very, very shaky. The wall on the right is starting to crumble. But it's the big old upright at the front. Watch this. It's not looking very good, and there it goes. Yeah. So, again, of limited practical value. But Jingles, if there's a tank next to a destructible building, you can shoot the destructible building and bury him in rubble. Well, yeah, but you could shoot the tank. I mean, that would be better, right? So, limited practical value, but it sure is nice eye candy. So, how about some of those new vehicles? There are 28 new vehicles introduced into this patch, so I definitely don't have time to cover all of them. But there are some fun and interesting ones, as well as the new British ground vehicles. Of the fun and interesting ones, I'm mainly talking about the rocket-armed vehicles here. Unfortunately, all of the rocket-armed vehicles introduced in 1.53, of which there are many, are all premiums, so it's going to cost you real money to get your hands on them. Of course, this isn't the first time rocket-armed ground vehicles have been introduced into War Thunder. We've had the M4 Sherman Calliope for some time now, but there's a hell of a lot more of them with the introduction of patch 1.53. You've got vehicles like the M26 T99 Pershing, which not only has the Pershing standard 90mm gun, it's also got multiple racks of dumbfire rockets. But kind of like the destructible environments, I'm forced to ask the question, just exactly how practical are these things? Because, well, I'll show you what I mean. The M26 Pershing has a thoroughly respectable 19mm gun. It's accurate, it's hard-hitting, it gets the job done. The rockets, on the other hand, can't really say the same thing about them. They're the same rockets that you get on the M4 Sherman Calliope. They have 29mm of penetration at the centre of the explosion's radius when they hit a target. And they are hopelessly inaccurate, which is entirely historically correct. Generally speaking, if you wanted to hit anything with a World War II era unguided rocket, you pretty much had to fire an awful lot of them or be very, very close. And that's where these things are going to be useful, when you're very, very close. When you drive around a city corner and you find a Tiger II waiting for you on the other side, that's when you're going to just blast him in the face with a whole load of these rockets. In most other circumstances, you're going to get better results, even if they won't be as spectacular results, if you use the 90mm gun. Of course, these rockets bite both ways. If you're driving around with 44 of these rockets strapped to the outside of your turret, you're basically driving around with 4 ammo racks outside your tank's armour. Yes, that's right, ammo racks. These things can be detonated by anything that has any kind of high explosive in them. They will not be detonated by machine gun bullets, so don't waste your time spraying these rocket launchers with machine guns. But anything that contains any kind of high explosive, so high explosive shells, high explosive armor piercing shells, high explosive anti-tank shells, if they strike the rocket launchers, they will detonate them and they will destroy the tank on which they're equipped. And that doesn't just apply to the M26 T99, it applies to all of the vehicles in game that have externally mounted rocket racks. And no, you can't knock out mouse with these rockets, and yes, I have tried. Next, we're going to take a look at a bunch of vehicles which are quite new in patch 1.53 and which I suspect quite a lot of you have been looking forward to with bated breath and eager anticipation. It's the introduction of the first British ground vehicles into War Thunder. And those tanks are the Churchill Black Prince with a battle rating of 6, the Sherman Firefly with a battle rating of 5, the Achilles with a battle rating of 3.7, and the A13 Mark II 1939 cruiser tank, which has a battle rating of 1.7. With the exception of the cruiser, all 3 of the other tanks are on with the same 17-pounder gun. Hang on a minute. The Achilles, with a battle rating of 3.7, has the same 17-pounder gun as the Black Prince, with a battle rating of 6. Yeah, it does. Isn't that a little overpowered in the case of the Achilles? Well, yes and no. If you have a look at the modifications available for the Black Prince, it has access to an ammunition type that neither the Firefly nor the Achilles get, the Shot SV Mark I. This has a maximum penetration at point blank range at a flat angle of 228mm. If you go to the Firefly, which also features the 17-pounder gun, and you have a look at the ammunition choices for that, it has exactly the same ammunition choices as the Achilles down at battle rating 3.7. The highest penetration it can have is the Shot Mark 8 shell, which is armor-piercing capped ballistic, capped, and at point-blank range, at a flat angle of 90 degrees, it has 171mm of penetration. But still, the Firefly has a battle rating of 5, and it has the same firepower as the M10 Achilles, down here at battle rating 3.7. Does that not mean that the Achilles is a little bit overpowered? Well, you'd think so, but let's just say the gun handling is substantially different between tanks like the Black Prince and the Firefly and tank destroyers like the Achilles down here. I'll show you the sort of thing I'm talking about. I do like the Black Prince. I didn't expect to like the Black Prince because I don't like it too much in World of Tanks, but due to the nature of the way War Thunder plays, I think this is actually a very, very good tank here in War Thunder, much more so than it is in World of Tanks. The Black Prince is obviously a Churchill variant. It's a very, very heavily armoured Churchill variant, and they didn't get around to really improving the engine much, so it's very big, it's very heavy, it's very slow, it's very heavily armoured, and it's got this 17-pounder gun, which is a 76.2mm gun, so technically it's really a medium tank gun. And this is a very big, heavy tank. And that's why I didn't really like the Black Prince too much in World of Tanks, but in War Thunder, that combination works. Because in War Thunder, whoever gets the first good shot off tends to win in a tank v tank engagement, which is a lot more realistic. And having a rapid firing and accurate gun is much more important in War Thunder than it is in World of Tanks, even if you're on a big old heavy like the Black Prince here. That's a KV-1, and he's easily well over a kilometre away. Now, I am exceptionally rusty. This is the first tank realistic battle I've played in War Thunder in about 6 months. So I take a couple of ranging shots with a 17-pounder, and I hit but don't damage. Hit again, don't damage. This time I'm switching to my highest penetration ammunition, and we're going to have another go. Now that I know I have the range... Oh, okay, struck at an extreme angle. That was never going to penetrate, regardless of the ammunition. One more go. And I've just nailed a KV-1. And I nailed him at the kind of range, well, between me and that KV-1, you could probably fit 1.5 World of Tanks maps. I mean, and that's why the Black Prince works. I'm not sure how well it would do on a city map. Well, it would probably do quite well as long as you don't get outflanked, which is easier said than done when you're in a tank as slow as this, but on a wide open map like Kursk, this thing is in its element. At the kind of ranges at which your typical engagements occur on this map, nobody can penetrate your armour. The shots just lose too much penetration with range. And I'm doing stuff here in the Black Prince on Kursk that I would never do in any other tank. I would never drive across the middle of the valley like this. It's suicide. But in the Black Prince, certainly in this battle, you can get away with it. This tank has the armour. Enemy target spotted over there. There, I'm taking fire. He's hit me and he's blown my tracks off, but that's fine. If you have a look at the paper doll, down in the bottom left side of the screen, you'll see that my angle is just about perfect. So this is the value of having an accurate and rapid firing gun against tanks that are hull down and have you caught in the open. Again, trying to find the range, and you can see his shots just bouncing off. There's not much of that tank sticking up over the hill. Oh, well, it was a hit, but as you can see, he just pulled back, so the angle of his upper glacis was sufficiently... Oh, there we go. Got him with the second one. Penetrated his turret, damaged his gun breech, so I didn't knock the gun out, so he can continue to fire, but every time he fires that gun without repairing it from now on, he's risking a breech explosion and a catastrophic detonation inside the tank turret, which would be bad. Yeah, I like the Black Prince. I do like the Black Prince here in War Thunder, much more so than I like it in World of Tanks. It's a very, very strongly armoured tank, with a very useful, rapid-firing, accurate 17-pounder gun. Of course, it's by no means invulnerable, and I'm not just talking about being vulnerable to being attacked from the flank, as I am here. As I turn around, it's not the guy on the flank who killed me, it's the Su-152 derping 152mm of high explosive into my face from right in front. So, yeah, but, well, you know what it's like. It's the same in World of Tanks. Nobody can withstand the power of the Russian 152mm howitzers. As for the Sherman Firefly, not quite as impressed as I was with the Black Prince. As in World of Tanks, it seems to be a case of a mediocre to bad tank equipped with a very, very good gun. But it is a very, very good gun. This Firefly versus Firefly engagement here, and then I get taken out by a Tiger, but, well, you know, it's a Tiger. At the same time, though, it's difficult to complain too much. It seems to be a faithful and accurate representation of the Sherman Firefly. At the end of the day, the Sherman Firefly was a Sherman Firefly. It wasn't a Panther Firefly, it wasn't a Tiger Firefly. It's a 17-pounder gun mounted in a Sherman. And the Sherman was a good tank. It was reliable, it was easy to manufacture, it was cheap to manufacture, it could drive hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles without breaking down. It just wasn't terribly well armoured. Certainly not by 1944 and 1945, and that's what you've got here in World of Tanks. You've got a relatively poorly armoured Sherman tank with a very good 17-pounder gun. That's what the Sherman Firefly was, and that's exactly what you have here in War Thunder. As for the M10 Achilles, it's an interesting machine. Let's just put it that way. It's got exactly the same 17-pounder gun as the Firefly and the Black Prince. The only difference is that the Firefly and the Achilles do not get access to the top ammunition that is available on the Black Prince. That has over 200mm of penetration at point-blank range. Instead, both the M10 and the Firefly, as their best or highest penetration ammunition, has a penetration value of 171mm at 10 meters range at a 90-degree angle. Well, hang on a minute. The Firefly is a battle rating 5.0 tank, and the Achilles is 3.7, but it's got the same firepower as the Firefly. How is that not overpowered? Well, it's all about the way the gun handles. Did you see how long it took to turn the turret? That's what I'm talking about. That's how they compensate for your having this 17-pounder gun. They make it take forever to get the gun pointed at anything. Left, right, up, or down. The gun handling is very, very bad. This is a machine that does not react very well to surprises. When you're driving the M10 Achilles, you need to know in which direction your gun needs to be pointed before you start pointing the gun in that direction, because when you get surprised in this thing, it's usually fatal. And that's about it for this particular match in the M10 Achilles. As is usually the case, I was in a team that couldn't kill anything, couldn't capture anything, and before too long the enemy team was spawn camping us and just farming us all over and over and over for free experience and credits, and I wasn't going to take any further part in that. As for the A13 Cruiser, well, distinctly less impressed with this thing. I'd forgotten what it was like trying to drive a small, fast, light tank with arcade physics in War Thunder arcade battles. Let's just say it's not easy. But it's only a battle rating 1.7 tank. You can't expect miracles. You drive around, you see something, you shoot him, you hit him first, he dies. He hits you first, you die. Low tier War Thunder arcade battle tanks, and that's pretty much exactly what you get here. When you're not being team killed by members of your own team who call in artillery strikes right on top of you and not the enemy 50 meters in front of you, that's War Thunder low tier arcade battles for you. Still, at least it's cheap. Yes, that's right. That's the bad news about the new British tanks. The first 4 British tanks to be introduced into War Thunder are premium tanks. They're all going to cost you money. They're only available in the premium store, and the prices, well, you can buy all 4 of them in one pack for €80. That is an astonishingly large amount of money. But you are getting 4 premium tanks in this pack. Just hold on to that thought for a moment. You can also buy them individually. The A13 will cost you €11, which isn't too bad, but it's only a battle rating 1.7 tank, and it's not very good. The M10 Achilles will cost you €17. The Sherman Firefly 1C will cost you €27, and the Black Prince will set you back the whopping sum of €40. That's the price of a AAA premium big game for one premium tank. Is it worth this amount of money? Well, you're going to have to be the judge of that. It's not just the tank. These aren't the same kind of bloated, overinflated tank bundles that people have been complaining about loudly in World of Tanks recently. If you were to buy the A13, for example, you get the A13 and 15 days of premium, which isn't a bad deal really for €11. The same deal with the M10 Achilles, it's just the tank and 15 days of premium. You're not also getting a whole ton of golden eagles that you don't necessarily want, a whole bunch of premium consumables that you don't necessarily want. It's just the tank and 15 days of premium time. So as deals go, they're not too bad. It's just kind of disappointing that the first British tanks that we see in War Thunder are ones that we have to reach into our pockets for. There is one new British vehicle that isn't going to cost you any cash though. I've been waiting for this one for a very, very long time. I've put up with a lot of shit from War Thunder over the years, but today they gave me the Hawker Hunter, and while I'm not prepared to forgive them everything, I am feeling lenient enough to at least invite them round to my house so they can sleep with my sister. The Hawker Hunter, Hawker's last great fighter aircraft. Jingles, but what about the Harrier? That was originally developed by Hawker Siddeley. Yeah, but that was Hawker Siddeley. It wasn't just Hawker, was it? Just look, stop picking nits. This is the Hawker Hunter. I have been waiting for this thing to be introduced into War Thunder, well, ever since I heard of War Thunder. This was a fantastic and very successful aircraft. It was eventually replaced in Royal Air Force service in the mid-1970s by aircraft like the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom, the English Electric Lightning and the Hawker Harrier. But it still saw active service with other air forces until the year 2014. Nobody was making parts for this thing by then. But it was so simple, reliable, and easy to maintain. It proved its worth over and over again in multiple conflicts between the 1960s all the way up to the 21st century. And it's not a bad machine here in War Thunder either. With this Rolls-Royce Avon turbojet engine, it is a very, very powerful aircraft. It's definitely no dogfighter, but it can shift. It goes like an absolute rocket. It has a top speed of over 1100 kilometers per hour. And it's got a powerful punch as well. It's probably one of the most heavily armed fighter aircraft in all of War Thunder. Packed into the nose of this aircraft are 4 30mm Aden cannons. I do like this aircraft. You may have noticed. And I'm sure it's going to be a popular aircraft in high-tier battles in War Thunder. It does, of course, have the highest possible battle rating, and so it should. It's an absolute beast of an aircraft. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to see me playing it too much. Why is that, Jingles? Well, let's just say it's been a long time since I've wanted to play War Thunder, and patch 1.53, an aircraft like the Hawker Hunter have gone a long way towards making me want to play War Thunder again. Unfortunately, it was while playing War Thunder today and getting the various video footage that you've been enjoying for the last almost 30 minutes that I was reminded of the reason why it is that regardless of whether I want to play War Thunder or not, I'm just not allowed to. Frankly, I'm amazed that anybody in War Thunder even remembers who I am. It's been so long since I've played, but true to form, in every single realistic battle in which I tried to play the Hawker Hunter, somebody would shout out, "Oh look everybody, it's Jingles," and from that point on I would just miraculously grow a tail of enemy aircraft, chasing me all the way to the edge of the map. This is all starting to sound very, very familiar. Oh, Jingles, stop well, tell you what, you guys stop doing it, and I'll stop complaining about it. Deal? Deal. You see, this is why we can't have nice things. But anyway, that's a purely personal issue, and it's certainly not going to affect your enjoyment of War Thunder patch 1.53 Firestorm. It's a fantastic patch. It's not just full of content, although it's kind of disappointing that the first British tanks introduced into War Thunder would be premium tanks that you have to pay for, but Gaijin do insist that well, if not the rest of the British tanks, then more non-premium British tanks are going to be introduced before the end of the year, so we've got that to look forward to for Christmas. And aside from those 4 British vehicles, there are still 24 other new vehicles, both aircraft and tanks, that have been introduced into War Thunder in this patch, albeit some of those are premium vehicles, but the majority are not. They've given us the glorious Hawker Hunter. There are 2 new maps with destructible environments on them, destructible environments in one existing map, and then of course the one feature in patch 1.53 which I genuinely believe is going to bring more old War Thunder players back to the game than every other patch 1.53 feature combined, and that of course is the changes to the visibility mechanics, the removal of the ultra-low graphics quality exploit. something that's been in the game for far too long but has finally been removed in patch 1.53. In fact, if that was the one thing that this patch did, it would still be a good patch. As it is, there is so much more in 1.53 Firestorm. It's a great patch for Gaijin, it's a great patch for War Thunder players, both old and new. And I hope you've enjoyed the video. There's obviously a lot more to patch 1.53 than what I've covered, even though I've spent half an hour covering it, but, well, you know what I'm like. For full details, read the patch notes, or download it and try it for yourself. I do recommend it. As always, folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.